Alright guys, welcome back. We are in section 11.2 of NAMS class, and this is the second and last video for 11.2. Guys, we're using simple interest, but we're using it to solve for something other than the interest, which makes it a little tougher. Let me remind you, I equals P times R times T. So we're going to enter everything into this into this equation here. Our interest is 400. The principal, the amount of money, is $2,000. We don't know what the rate is, so we just enter an R for the rate, and the time is 4 years. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to solve for R. Let's go ahead and draw a line down our equal sign. Now to solve for R, I've got to get rid of the 2,000 and the 4. And the easiest way to do this, since they're all multiplied, is just to multiply the 2,000 and the 4 first. 2,000 times 4 is 8,000. So I get 8,000 times R equals 400. From here, I want to get R by itself. To get R by itself, I get rid of the 8,000 because it's on the same side as the R, and in between the two is the times. The opposite of times or multiplication is division. We will divide by 8,000. Cancel, cancel. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Oops. If you plug that into your calculator, 400 divided by 8,000 ends up being 0.05. Be careful, this is not your rate. This is your rate as a decimal. To convert from a decimal to a percent, we talked in 11.1, we move the decimal point 2 places to the right, making that 0.5 or 5%. That's the answer on the first one. So it's not hard. It's using our simple interest formula to solve an equation. That's what we're doing. Down to the second one, down to B. As we look at B, once again, every time I write it out, I equals P times R times T. And I enter all my information. Well, the I is 124.49. The P, the principal, is 957.62. The rate, well, we better convert this to a decimal. 6.5%. Move it back 12 as a decimal is 0.065. And we don't know what the time is. That's why we'll leave it as a T, the variable we'll solve for. Alright? In focusing in on this problem, the first thing I'm going to do after I draw my line down the middle is realize to get the T by itself, both of these two, 957.62 and 0.065, need to go away. And to make it simpler, I'm going to multiply the two. When I multiply 957.62 times 0.065, it produces 62.2435. And at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and get the T by itself. To get the T by itself, I will divide by 62.2435, divide by 62.2435. When we do, we will get that T equals, well, if you did it in your calculator, it's like 1.9999. We're going to round that up to 2. So the amount of time it was in the bank was for 2 years. Make sure you label your years and your percentage. That's how we take care of these style of problems. We're going to tack a couple more just to make sure we've got it. So, in this case, once again, I equals P times R times T. Enter the information you know. The interest was $280. The actual principal in this case was $1,600. The rate we don't know. And the time was 7 years. Once again, I need to get R by itself. To get R by itself, the 1,600 and the 7 have to go. And to make it easier, I'm going to multiply the two, since it's all multiplied on the right. In multiplying 1,600 times 7, I will get 11,000 200. The R is still there. And now I'm going to solve for the R. To solve for the R, to get rid of multiplication, I will divide by 11,200. They will cancel. When I divide by 11,200, it will turn out that R equals, and when we do that, R ends up equaling 0.025. Once again, we must convert this decimal to a percent. To do so, I'm going to move the decimal place to the right 2 spots. That makes the rate actually equal to 2.5, and it's a rate, so it must be a percent. That's A. Let's check out B. On B, we're going to do the same thing. I equals P times R times T. I'm going to enter all the information I know. The I is $295.59. The P is 835. The R is 11.8%. I'm going to go ahead and convert that to a decimal before I enter it by moving the decimal point back 2 places. Makes it 0.118. And when the T is what we're looking for. So we'll enter a T for the time. So in solving this, the first thing I'm going to do is going to be to multiply the 835 and the 0.118 together because they're on the same side, and it's all multiplication on the right hand side, so that makes it legal. 835 times 0.118 ends up being 98.53. That's where I'm getting this 98.53 on the right hand side by multiplying these two together. So we get 98.53 times T ends up equaling 295.59. And at this point in time, we're going to solve for the T. To solve for the T, we need to get rid of the 98.53. And to do so, since there's multiplication in between the two, I will divide. And performing that calculation, T ends up equaling 3. And since we're talking about time, that is 3 years. So it's not hard to roll this backwards and forwards, guys. It's really not a difficult thing to work with simple interest. Just got to be careful about labels and all your decimals and all the extra. Last example, make sure you're paying attention. A loan company obtains a loan for $6,000 at a rate of 3.5% per 3 years. To determine the amount of money the company must repay at the end of 3 years. There's a trick here, but we're going to go about it the way I think you would do, which is I equals P times R times T. That's good. Enter all the information. The loan they got is for $6,000. That's the principal. That's the amount of money they were lent. The rate is 3.5%, which we must convert by moving the decimal point back 2 places to 0.035. And the amount of time, in this case, was 3 years. When you multiply those pieces together, you're going to find out that I equals 630. Now, most people would leave it right here. I'm done. Yay, the answer is 630. But here is where the actual question comes in. It says the amount of money the company must repay at the end of 3 years. Well, if you borrowed $6 grand, you don't have to only pay back $630. It's less than you borrowed. You need to pay back the $6,000 that you actually borrowed plus the interest in this case. Notice how this question can be changed. Total amount of money they will pay back is the actual loan plus the interest. Answer in here is 6,630. So again, not hard stuff. Just be careful because I can mix the question up and mess with you just a little bit.